Whenever you're ready, Scott.
Okay, so if you're playing along with us at home, we are on Season 2, Episode 16, Ready or Not. And we're going to be talking about Mallory Keaton deciding to have sex for the first time. She's got a new boyfriend.
Rick.
Right out of the gates, I have to say, this was a brilliant episode of Family Ties.
Right out of the gates, I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah,
I thought it was a terrific episode, and almost, to a large extent, Alex P. Keaton free.
Yeah.
Shockingly. I didn't even think of that, Corey, even without Alex being a major player in the episode, it is funny as hell. It's really full of pathos and interesting stuff, and it's so good.
I agree.
It presents some very progressive ideas for the time, I thought, the points that are made. And kind of going along with like our intro today, the thing that just grabbed me a little bit is some of it does flow like a Judy Blume novel.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's a teenage girl figuring out when she wants to have sex.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, starting off, we are in the living room, and Stephen and Elise are waiting up for Mallory. She's out on a date with her new boyfriend, Rick, and it's getting close to her curfew. Her curfew is midnight, which I think is like a really very lenient curfew. That's a late curfew. I never had a midnight curfew.
For a 16-year-old?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I can't remember when my curfew was, when I had a car and stuff like that. But my question is, you can have sex before the hour of midnight. Why is a curfew a thing that parents have?
That's a very interesting question. You know, I'll tell you why curfew is something parents have. Because parents like to go to bed, and they can't go to bed until their children, they know where their kids are. So it's not like, okay, your curfew's 1 in the morning, but I need to go to bed around 11:30, so I'm going to rest really nicely between 11:30 until I hear the door slam. So that's why. I want my kids home so I can go to bed.
All right, they can rest easy, or at least know where they are. Yeah, and there's also a point, I mean, sex aside too, there's also a point is the later it gets at night, more bad things happen the later it gets at night.
Well, some sports talk guy said if it happens between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., it's never good.
Never good. Nothing good happens during those hours at all.
My voice teacher in college said nothing good happens after midnight.
Yeah.
Fairly true.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's getting close to Mallory's curfew. Mallory makes it in with like 7 minutes to spare. Stephen and Elise, they go hide in the kitchen because they don't want Mallory to know that they've been waiting up for her. And we are introduced to her new boyfriend, Rick. How did you guys feel about Rick?
I liked him.
I thought sometimes he was good. Oh, sorry, Corey.
I think he was a big upgrade over Jeff, obviously.
Yeah.
Mallory definitely has a type. Rick is a little bit boring. Sometimes sometimes he's fine, sometimes he's not, but he's definitely a huge improvement over Jeff.
He is a huge improvement. There are times when his voice just kind of creeped me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a slight creepiness about him. Not awkward creepy like Jeff, but I don't know. There was just something. But yes, definitely an upgrade over Jeff.
And so we find out that she's 16 and he's how old? He's in college.
Statutory to perfection.
Yeah. Well,
wouldn't be the first time.
It's crazy that he's in college too, and it's like, where is Mallory meeting all these college guys?
Yeah.
Well, Paul, let's not forget, she almost joined a sorority.
That's true.
If you remember from last season.
That's right. She was a sophomore in high school joining the sorority.
Yeah. And so they start making out on the couch, and one thing leads to another, and Rick proposes the idea of, to progress their relationship, they should have sex, that he wants it to move forward.
Yeah, there's a great little joke in there where, I mean, it's not a great joke, but for Family Ties, they start making out, and then she's like, all right, well, you're going to get going, and he's like, you expect me to walk to my car after that kiss?
I wrote that one down, and I thought, did they just make an erection joke?
Yeah.
There were several references to like blue balls in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so funny because it's like every time Family Ties makes an episode about sex, they really up their A game. I feel like maybe was everyone a writer on Three's Company and they came over to this and they're just like
they're going, oh, writing family comedy. We're not writing a sex comedy anymore.
Yeah.
And then they come in with the plot of it's a sex comedy this week. It's like, yeah, we got that.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, everyone just feels like
You know how SNL has certain episodes where you can tell they pulled in all the A writers who don't work on the show anymore?
Uh-huh.
You know, like they just announced this week that Amy Poehler and Tina Fey are hosting the last show before Christmas with musical guest Bruce Springsteen. So the question now is, how hard does Lorne Michaels pound the phone getting Seth Meyers to write for the episode, getting all of the writers, Michael O'Donoghue, getting anybody who Paula.
Wait, that would be impressive.
They would get Lorne would get Michael O'Donoghue back from the dead in order.
Absolutely, getting Michael O'Donoghue back from the dead to work on the show this week. Belushi.
You're right.
That would be
trying to get Jim Downey in there.
Yeah, if they remade the that thing where John Belushi does the tap dance on their graves. What's that? The Schiller reel?
Oh, the dancer. Yeah, the dancer.
Yeah. Do a sequel to that.
But I feel that about Family Ties, when they do have an episode about sex, all of a sudden it's like, they have a good bunch of sex jokes.
Yeah.
The writers are like pulling out reams of dick jokes that they've collected over the years. I just can't wait to use them. So what is presented in this scene is Rick wants Mallory to consider the idea of having sex with him. And that is something that, for their relationship to progress, he just wants her to think about it.
Now,
and she says she will.
This brought up the issue to me. Have I ever had this discussion with anybody? Have I ever discussed, when I was a teenager, have I ever done in order for our relationship to go further, you got to put out just a little bit. Something about it makes me think I did do that to somebody once.
Yeah, I never did.
I think I may have exerted a slight amount of pressure.
I'm sure that happened. I can't think of anything offhand either. Usually it was like in the moment when it would be like well, should we, shouldn't we, this sort of thing. But like, I can't recall, and I'm sure I was an asshole. So I'm sure I was like, hey, can we? Yeah.
That's what I got to figure I did, and now watching this episode, I sort of kind of regret it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Really, did I put pressure instead of Actually, I thought this ended quite nicely. I thought they ended it in the most vanilla, pleasing way possible at the end of the show. But the hemming and hawing throughout the episode, I thought was pretty good. I thought it had me. Okay, I see both sides of it here.
Yeah. They really for the time. I keep hearing rustling. Is that me?
No.
Oh, weird. No, just that like for the time that it was written, it's very even-handed. They didn't make too much of a thing of Rick being a jerk or anything, and it was pretty good.
They didn't make Elise. They didn't demonize Elise out to be some sort of all of a sudden the person who she's not. She handled it in a relatively even-handed manner. Mallory handled it. Even Alex, during his little talk with her, he overreacts, of course, but that's like an older brother and a younger sister would in any circumstance.
Yeah, and they hang a lampshade on it. They're like, Alex, we know that this is how you would react, but we understand. Like Mallory says, in your way, this is helping.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Yeah, I liked how they acknowledged it. She's like, I can see that you just care about me. I can see that you care about the decision I make here. I know that's why you're acting the way you are, and it's perfectly fitting for Alex B. Keaton. Yeah, you're right. There, at no point did I ever think Rick was being shitty or manipulative in any way. I think he was acting like a regular college guy.
It seemed like
there wasn't anything.
And the thing is, Justine Bateman is certainly attractive enough to get somebody worked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're kissing, you're hugging. One thing leads to another, as they say, and that's where they have this conversation. And each time, like, what was it? The equivalent line in the second act, Paul, where he comes in and he says after he comes over to the house, he goes, "Well, I took a shower and I'm feeling much better now."
I took a cold shower, feeling much better.
Yes, I thought, it's a masturbation joke, but I sort of liked it. It was like, hey,
Where did the cold shower thing come from? I get just jerking off, but why?
You're all hot. You need to take a cold shower.
Oh, I see.
But to me, a cold shower is uncomfortable at any time, at any point. It's just an awful thing to do.
Yeah.
So, after the seed's been planted in Mallory's mind, we go to
good turn of phrase.
The moment I said that, we're in the kitchen and she's with a group of friends that we have never ever seen before,
and we'll never see again, according to us.
Right. Yep.
Although the actresses all sort of kind of work. One of them, Kathy, is Kathleen Wilhoit, who's had a really, really nice career doing sort of strung out prostitutes and crystal meth addicts.
What?
Yeah, she's a lot of hour-long dramas. Like, she had a huge, maybe season-and-a-half arc on NYPD Blue. She's a really good actress who does, like, indie films, and she's always strung out in some way.
Was she the redhead?
Yes, the one who was stable, Kathy. Yes.
Yeah.
And there was another one. The name was familiar. I didn't write it down, but she was familiar too. And I thought, wow, between this episode, and we have one that's upcoming with character actresses who have worked since this period of time. And Kathy Wilhoit has worked very well since '83.
And you know what? Because this is such an episodic show where, there's no real arcs for the most part, like plot arcs throughout seasons. It's very old-fashioned in that way. Because we'll never see these actresses again, and we never saw them before, the camaraderie and relationships that they built, the actresses built, it was really nice. I thought they were really good actors in order to establish that.
They played well with each other. It seemed real.
There was a really good group dynamic too. Of you had like the more experienced friend, the one who kind of more of a goody two shoes. It kind of so you got this whole dynamic of different points of view.
One's more of a virgin. They sort of spread it out there.
Yeah, this is very Sex in the Suburb. I'm kind of a Kathy myself, but
you're a total Kathy.
Yeah, Scott, you're a total Mallory. Corey, you're totally that blonde girl that had one line.
And we're all baking.
Yeah.
And they're baking sugar cookies.
They're baking sugar cookies for her, like just. I don't know why they chose that.
Well, I had to go back in my mind, and I had to think of the phone call of like, "Hey, Kathy, you want to come over and make sugar cookies tonight?" Wouldn't that be fun?
Could they at least have established it for like, there's a bake sale at school or something like that? No, we're just sitting around baking sugar cookies.
Why you girls are sitting in the kitchen making sugar cookies? I'll tell you the reason. I know the reason, so that they could bring out the milk pitcher again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm keeping count. After last week's show, I'm keeping count on how many times the old milk pitcher comes out. Prop person said, "Damn it! I bought that milk pitcher last week. We're bringing it out again this week."
And they're talking about female stuff, so milk once again.
Milk, yeah, the metaphor of
The other thing is Kathy, that redheaded girl. She lost her virginity to. She goes Benny Frankel, and then they're like Ben Franklin. Is it Ben Franklin? Was the kid's name?
Or was it the Jewish version, like Benny Franklin?
Yeah, totally.
His
father owns the department store.
Yeah, Franklinstein. Yeah.
Ben Franklinstein. There was a line that Mallory says when like her friends are encouraging her, if you do it, have take precautions and everything, and she says, well, Rick said he'd take care of the birth control, and it was weird because when we finally do get to the scene when they're about to do it. Rick says he has the birth control, but we never. Are they talking about condoms or actually birth control for her?
I think they're talking condoms because
I think they are too, but they never and maybe because of the times they couldn't show it, you know, like an actual pack of condoms and everything. So I was just curious.
Condoms.
Or say condoms, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a really funny line when like the girls have to go and stuff like that. One of the girls, I forget which one, Kathy, the redhead, she goes, "I was supposed to pick up my mom half an hour ago," and I was just like, "That's crazy!" Like her mom's sitting around the mall, waiting for Kathy to pick her up for half an hour. And I thought it was funny that in all of this talk about birth control, she's late, and I thought that was pretty nice.
Paul, you're the king of metaphors for this show.
You
really are. You really are.
Well, you know, what else am I going to read? Like Schopenhauer? No, I have to watch Family Ties.
Elise, okay, so the girls leave. Elise enters and kind of wants to have, you know, heart-to-heart with Mallory about where her relationship with Rick is going and actually, you know, and have the sex talk. And Mallory, like any teenager would, tries to avoid it, doesn't want to have the conversation.
Certainly not with her mother.
Certainly not with her.
And I like that they brought in the dynamic of that Elise is a little uncomfortable. Like, this is because she says, I'm willing to talk about sex, but at the same time she's uncomfortable talking about it with Mallory in this context. So it's like, you know, in the past they were teaching Jennifer the joy of sex or whatever that book was that they were reading. Yes. But at the same time, when the rubber meets the road, it just gets a little bit uncomfortable for even the mom.
Mm-hmm.
But this scene had a moment that I had to replay 3 times. I enjoyed so much. It was Mallory putting the box of baking soda and crushing the room temperature butter. There was a
yeah.
And she had in her hand the box of baking soda, Hammer baking soda, and she pounded it down at one point, and she crushed a whole brick of butter. And I thought, oh, that was sort of funny.
That's awesome. I totally missed that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, her line is like, "What? I'm fine. I'm perfectly okay." And then she smashes the butter with the baking soda. And now we go back. We cut to the living room, and there's something of a B plot coming up here, where it starts off
something of a B plot.
Yeah.
Something with Alex and Steven once again playing chess. I wrote down, "Holy shit, they're playing chess again."
Who'd have thought that would have come back?
Ugh. I was hoping it wouldn't come back.
Yeah.
And Jennifer has a school assignment. We're writing a B story again around Jennifer having a school assignment to record family conversations, which I thought was extremely weird.
It was weird to me in a great way, where it was just like, because in other episodes where you would have a B plot, they were so like parallel to the A story. Mm-hmm. This to me felt so out of left field that then it forced you into, like, as a writer being like, all right, so how does this influence the story from a different perspective? And I thought that was really cool, like the way it comes up in the next scene. But yeah. And it was a funny scene that, once again, they use the same joke that Alex is really good at chess and Steven isn't, that, you know, he gets checkmate in a move and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I thought it was a great scene.
Yeah. And
I was just going to say that if for timing purposes, I did take a look. It was 7 minutes and 15 seconds into this episode before we saw Alex today.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's a long time. I'd be curious to see how many episodes automatically start with Alex.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kicking off. But yeah, Paul, you're right. Alex beats Steven, and Rick comes over, and Mallory agrees that, she said, yeah, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to take it to the next level with you. And Rick, of course, is thrilled.
He shakes her hand.
Yes, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. And then he leaves. And it's just a great thing where it's like, you know, this doesn't go in the direction that you would think it would. Like, he's so excited that he leaves. And it's just like nice writing where you have these very established personas and you see how they interact with each other. And it's different than just plugging in, all right, this happens now, this happens now. It's really letting the characters inform the situation.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And there we go. So let's go to commercial, because that's where they go to commercial. We'll be right back.
Nice.
All right. You guys all set?
Let's do it.
All right. We are back.
And we are in the kitchen where Steven is trying to help Jennifer out with her project because Jennifer has not been able to get a decent family discussion recorded. And so Alex is doing some homework, and Steven sets up the recorder to try to have a conversation, but it comes across very forced.
This might be my favorite scene in season 2. This is hilarious. So Alex is doing calculus homework, and Steven, puts on that tape recorder and hits record, and then it's this weird, absurdist scene of Steven very excitedly trying to have a fake/real conversation, and they're going back and forth with these different positions on the type of conversation that they're having. They're commenting on the conversation that they're having, which is very strange, where it's like, "Hi, son, who is my son?" And it's just one of those things where when Family Ties does absurdist humor, it's hilarious, and I love it.
I agree. I thought the scene was really good. In fact, there's something coming up in this scene that I wrote down may have been my biggest laugh of the season.
Yeah.
Wow!
We'll get to it in this scene. It was actually, I think, my favorite moment so far this year.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's a great, and Michael J. Fox's timing, looking at Michael Gross as he's trying to have this conversation is great. It's just perfectly timed. Just this look of, okay, I'll go along with this, Dad. Yeah, it's wonderful. And so Mallory comes in.
You have a glass of orange juice, I might add.
Right.
Boom!
Now, how does? Yep, the OJ is present.
Yep.
The OJ is present once again. Dad leaves, and so Mallory wants to talk to Alex about, when was his first time and actually thinking about doing this with Rick.
But Alex has also taken care to keep the recorder running during this scene, thinking he's going to get something juicy that maybe he could blackmail. That's where I thought this was going. I thought it was going to be older brother is going to blackmail younger sister, and that's why I enjoyed that moment so much. That it totally fooled me.
He does this great slide of the chair underneath the table, which is great. Yep.
By the way, what was the TP jokes that they kept making? The non-politically correct TP jokes going over to TP.
Has he asked you to come over and visit his teepee?
I just like.
I couldn't get it either.
I just don't understand it. Hearing the word TP was just ridiculous to me. All I could think of was toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah, I had zero idea. I was hoping that in this conversation you would be able to tell me.
Shed some light on this one? Nope. Just, it's funny. I love the scene, and yet there was 2 references to TP that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
But when Mallory tells Alex that she's agreed to have sex with Rick, Alex goes over to the recorder, pulls out the tape, grabs a hammer, and smashes it in one whack. It's
without
brilliant.
saying a word, without doing a take, he just realizes, oh shit, and he does it. And to me, that's the biggest laugh I've had this season.
Absolutely.
Just
and smashing it in one hit was just perfect comedic. I highly recommend comedic actors watch that. How it works.
It was.
Yep.
It was so well done, so out of left field, so protective of his little sister. God forbid anybody should hear her talking about this.
Yeah.
It totally worked for me. It was like, that's really funny.
Yep.
The only thing I would have said, and I don't know, I'm sure they had this conversation in the writer's room, but I would have loved to have had this joke be in there somewhere in that, after that moment, is something about Nixon in the tapes. The only thing. It might not have worked, though. It might have ruined the moment.
Taking it out of the Keaton household into the bigger world, and at that moment, you really had to sort of stay with the Keatons.
Yeah. But I just thought that was a cool thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and he does it so fast, and it flows so well. That's what makes it so funny. It's just the speed of that he does it. It's so effortless. Like wham, wham, bam. Yeah.
Reaches over, takes the tape, finds the hammer, smashes it, and doesn't even look at Mallory, and she's just sort of dumbstruck as to what happened.
Yeah.
So naturally, Alex hates this idea and is very protective of his little sister. He even tells her, Mallory, whatever you're thinking of doing, don't do it. And going back to what we said, Mallory's response is so sweet. It's like, I know in your own way you're trying to help me, Alex. It's really sweet. And I always love the scenes with Mallory and Alex. Their chemistry together is just so good. They both stand up to each other so well.
Definitely.
Who says at the end of this scene, one of them says something about being curious about sex. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to introduce, because that's to me is the anti-abstinence argument, that teenagers are naturally going to be curious about sex. And there's nothing that the world can do about that except educate them.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think bringing the word curiosity, yes, teenagers are curious about sex. Oddly enough, they're curious about it. That's never going to change.
Never.
So I thought introducing that as to, so that really making Mallory out to be just a completely normal teenage girl, that she's curious and she admits that to her brother. And I thought that was sort of interesting.
And also she sets it up that I mean, everything that she says in that series of lines is like the most healthy of perspectives on sex, where it's like, she says, I really like him, I'm attracted to him, and I'm curious about sex. And it's just like, if your child is saying that to you, then you would be like, you know what, then I think you're ready. And so as she goes into the scene with Rick, she seems ready.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask the question, it seems to be all or nothing with these guys, though. They've made out, and now they're going to have sex. And then there are other intermediary steps that these teenagers can take in the meantime to sensually explore each other's bodies.
I'm sorry, Corey. Could you? I'm getting my notebook. Could you?
Here we go. Okay.
Sensually explore each other with. One can touch. There can be lots of touching and feeding of body parts.
Corey, I want this to be like a character that you do as a sex ed teacher in high school with that voice.
Students, it's time to discuss sensual exploration.
What's hilarious right now, if you're not watching this, Corey is like lying on a bunch of pillows. He looks like he's in like a Turkish opium den in the 1920s or something.
Hookah, please.
Yeah, and now we will discuss our sensual explorations of each other's genitals.
Oh my god. Well, and there's also something else that I thought was really great that Mallory brings up. Being a 16-year-old girl, she brings up the idea of a double standard.
Yes.
Like, for guys,
right,
they can score and it's great, and for girls, you're completely judged differently. For a 16-year-old girl to have that kind of perspective is wonderful to see.
And I like that that Alex B. Keaton is the only one to voice the double standard in a positive quote-unquote way, where it's like no one else is being like, oh, because you're a girl, you can't do it. They left that perspective to the most reprehensible character for all intents and purposes.
Right, the one that would have that perspective and be shown to be wrong.
Right.
Ultimately, I thought they wrote Mallory from start to finish in this episode dead on. I thought that she was smart. As much as they want to dumb Mallory up, she's way too smart a person for them to dumb her up. She makes smart decisions. She makes very careful decisions. Just the fact that she was thinking this out as opposed to just acting upon it makes it really, really smart on her part. She was talking to friends. She was talking to her mother. She talked to her brother. She talked to Rick about it, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
So I thought they really wrote her smart from start to finish in this episode, and everything she went through I thought was very real.
And she's been dating Rick for 4 months, we find out, and so she spent some time with him. She's gotten to know him. It wasn't anything that she's not rushing into this. She's really gotten to know this person.
And they had that good conversation where Alex just talks about losing his virginity at 17, and I'm glad they didn't go back on that, and her losing virginity at 16, and it's not these are not unreasonable statements to be making. No, it's not shocking.
No,
right.
No, absolutely. All right, so now we get to the big night, Rick's dorm room. All right,
and it looks like ironically enough, the same set as Stephanie Brooks's apartment. Where Alex lost his virginity.
Interesting.
They painted it blue, though. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only difference. Yeah. Yeah.
You're right.
My favorite thing in the dorm room, though, was Justine Bateman's 8x10 over his bed.
That was, I saw that too. I have that written down.
Actually, of Justine Bateman's 8x10 picture.
Oh, they got whiteout in order to get rid of the Justine Bateman at the bottom right-hand corner.
Other than that,
represented by William Morris.
Yeah. Was that Corey?
A headshot. That's all. I was like, okay, they stuck a headshot in a frame.
Totally.
Rick is trying to kind of set the mood. He wants to play music, but the stereo's broken, so he sings.
He got flowers. He got flowers, and then like an episode of Saved by the Bell, the audience goes, "Aww."
You're right.
Really sweet. He's gonna take her to pop her cherry, and he gave her flowers.
Aww.
There was another hilarious joke in this episode. I mean, we haven't talked about all the funny jokes, but in each scene there are great jokes. But a great one here is that, what we said, they couldn't say condom on TV, or it seems that might be the case, where she's like, well, did you get what we were talking about? And he's like, oh, yeah, I got those at the CVS or whatever. And he's like, right. But I also got dental floss and baseball cards. And it's just like, then you picture the moment of him being like, I'll get that, and I'll get a copy of Cracked Magazine, and I'm going to get,
and the condoms. Yeah. And so Rick's ready to go, but Mallory's having reservations about this, rightfully so. And she starts just feeling like maybe tonight is not the right moment for her.
Now, if I do remember correctly, and I could be totally wrong on this because it was, 40 years ago, a young lady who I dated throughout late in high school, we had a similar push me, pull you thing with when we were going to do it, because I had already lost my virginity, but she had not. And so it was not a big deal for me. And we had been seeing each other for well over a year at this point. And I do remember there being instances of, oh, we're going to do it, we'll do it Saturday, and then Saturday coming and her going, no, I don't know. And I just remember being disappointed, but not putting pressure on her, a la Rick.
Right.
There is that disappointment of, really? I thought we decided, but it's not worth it. Who wants to force anybody? That's not a very pleasurable experience for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
No. You don't want someone reluctantly having sex with you.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. It's almost criminal.
That's happened way too many times in my life.
Right.
In fact, last night, with a tube in my...
You're like, this is a mistake.
I'm not ready.
Susanna, why can't we just talk?
Let's just cuddle.
Yeah. But the other thing is, that Rick, even though he's disappointed, even though he's kind of a dick and passive-aggressive in his disappointment, it never gets bad. Like, in the scene, it never gets, like, pushy, it never gets, any sort of rapey stuff.
No.
Very respectful all the time.
Right. Even though there's the point of disagreement, it never becomes something that makes you feel actively as a viewer be like, oh shit.
Yeah. No. It was just simply. It was sort of very, very faint blue ballsy on his part.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, because even when they're ending the evening and she's like, maybe I should go home, and he says, yeah, maybe you should. He's not like throwing her out of the apartment. He's just like, maybe we should just. The feeling is more of, we should just end this evening because it's gotten rough, it's gotten awkward, and maybe we just need some time apart to think about this.
And that, to me, that's the only part of the scene that felt like Rick is being a jerk, where he's sitting in a chair and she's like, well, maybe I should go, and he's like, yes, I guess you better had.
Yeah.
How a British person would say it. But,
yes, you're right, Paul. It is dickish, but again, it doesn't get to where it's like uncomfortable or weird or Yeah. All right, and so Mallory heads back home, and Elise is waiting up for her, and there's this great mother-daughter conversation. Elise kind of finally gets to have this talk with her about sex, because Mallory kind of explains to her, this is what's happened. And Elise makes a great statement of, sex should never be used to progress a relationship, or to hold on to a relationship. And no one should ever make you feel like you should do that, that when your time's ready, it'll happen, It was really sweet.
Watching this scene and the conversation between Mallory and Elise, it just made me be like, my God, it's so tough to be a teenager. Like, that all of this stuff is happening and you want all these things and you don't have the wherewithal mentally to, like, reason it out because you just have so many feelings happening all at once. You forget how tough it is. And it was just a nice scene to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a thing with teenagers where you don't realize how destructible you are at the same time. So many teens feel just, I'm indestructible. I can experience all this. Why can't I experience all this? What's the worst that can happen? And they have no concept of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a great scene, and then Rick comes back. So Rick comes in. I totally wasn't expecting him to return. I was surprised.
I wasn't either. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he comes over. He apologizes. He's like, and I was really glad to see that, especially after seeing him be kind of such a dick at the end of the last scene.
Yeah, that one dickish moment at the very end of that last scene where he was sitting in the chair, facing away from her. He wouldn't even look at her to say goodbye to her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to give you that little morsel. And then for him to come back and to eat crow, I thought was sort of like, okay, they made him human again.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And he apologizes, and he's like, whenever you're ready, that's fine with me. I don't want to. I'm sorry if I put pressure on you and everything. And they agree that when the time is right, they'll do it. And how did you guys feel about the ending joke?
I could have done without it.
I could have too. It felt like it kicked the legs out from everything that had just happened a little bit.
Yeah, the joke is, he's like, all right, so we'll wait, and whenever you're ready, and then he goes, so how about Thanksgiving is the date? And then it's like, ha ha ha, credits. But like you're saying, I didn't think that it worked.
Yeah.
Neither, because it went back to him putting pressure on her again.
Right.
And I think they really resolved it just moments ago with, okay, the resolution is, you tell me when it's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It should have gone in a different direction. Yeah, it just felt like, kind of everything we've, learned and what's been established has just kind of gotten kicked out from underneath us a little bit.
And it's doubly weird because Family Ties is not the type of show that has to go. Family Ties is not the type of show that has to go out on a joke. Like, they've easily done shows that have like a hug at the end, and this was just weird.
Yeah.
So.
But overall, after what we've been through with this season, this was a nice breath of fresh air. Fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, this was, like we said with the Season 2 opener, this is a show that was an episode that people should watch. Mm-hmm. This is an episode that people should watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Well, all right. So, for questions and comments, please write to us at qualitytimewithfamilyties@gmail.com, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at QTWFT. Each of us is also on Twitter. I'm at Follow Jones.
I'm at Paul Packler.
I'm at Corpep.
And be sure to like our Facebook page. We'd like to thank our host and producer, Barbara Dillon at Fanboy Comics. Fanboy Comics is an online conglomerate of geek media providing its readers with daily insights and reviews that span the pop culture spectrum. We also like to thank Perry Adams, who beautifully performs the Family Ties theme song Without Us. Be sure to check her music out at perryadams.com. We also like to thank Brian Dillon for doing our artwork as well, and he also edits our show. Be sure to check him out on Twitter at Comic Book Slayer. And lastly, Sean Foster, Fanboy Comics graphic designer, for designing our logo. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.